All right, one more time. Let me see if I got this right. You want amplification. You want big power. You want AB, big toroidals. You want something hefty, but you don't want to go vintage because you're a little risk adverse and maybe you don't want to inherit someone else's problems. But then again, if you go too modern, maybe you don't want something that has a streamer built in and all kinds of bells and whistles. You're old school, like me. I get it. I think I've got something for you, and I don't think it's something that you've seen before. Hi, I'm Bob. Welcome back, my friends, to the United States of Analog. My friends from all around the world, how you doing out there? And, everything's cool, pretty much. I mean, it's a little weird out there these days, but luckily we all have the healing powers of music to get us through. And that's what we're going to talk about today. A beautiful music delivery system that comes from a company that began in the UK and has moved to Germany. But before we get into all the specifications and all of the fun, let me just say thank you for being here, and please like and subscribe and do all that stuff that helps my channel grow. Support it in any way that you can. If you'd like to see it continue, if you'd like to see more of this unusual content, I'm not trying to be a disruptor in the space, but I'm trying to be a little different than some of my colleagues here. So if you like what I'm doing, please support it in any way you can. I want to present something to you. This is new gear, new amps that kind of reminds me, kind of harkens back to the good old days of hi-fi, when things weren't so complicated, when there weren't all kinds of digital menus and streamers built in and Bluetooth and room correction and all that stuff. All that stuff's great. I love it. Sometimes you just want to turn on an amp, your favorite music,
and just blow your face off.
Yeah, sometimes that's what we need. That's the therapeutic part of listening to especially rock music, which I listen to primarily, a little bit of jazz here and there because I'm trying to get educated. And this equipment is from IOTAVX, a company that was started in Middlesbrough, UK. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And since 2017 has been headquartered in Germany. So whichever country you want to pick or relate to, both renowned for really quality equipment, quality gear, and this is no exception. This is the IOTAVX SA40 PA40 bridged amplifier combo rig. That's not what they call it, but that's basically what we're talking about here. Two separate amplifiers, different amplifiers. One's an integrated, the SA40, and the other, the PA40, is a power amp. You can use the SA40 on its own, it does just fine, but when you bridge it with the PA40, you double the power and double the fun, and that's how I'm going to show it to you here today. All right, first let's talk about price. This amp combo will cost you about $2,000, depending on how the euro is doing against the dollar or the dollar against the euro. I don't know how all that works. I think it's a very good value for the amount of power that you are going to be getting when you bridge this system. Now, the SA40 is a fine integrated amp on its own, doing 300 watts a channel into 4 ohms and 150 into 8. But when you bridge it with the PA40 power amp, you're now running 300 watts per channel into 8 ohms.
Man, that's a lot of power.
And that's some serious business. And you're going to drive some speakers, and I'll give you a good example coming up, better than they've ever been driven before with the IOTAVX system. And you know it's a lot of power just by kind of getting your eyeballs down in there and looking into the top of the units, and you see those big, this isn't a toroidal transformer, and the ones in there are much bigger than this record weight, but yeah, those big round toroidal transformers that are in there that are delivering that really high quality, high current AB power. And I love that. I love digital gear. I love analog gear. But every once in a while, like I said, you've just got to melt your face with some just raw power, and this has it. As far as the form factor goes, maybe I overstated the simplicity just a little bit. Yeah, there is a digital display, and there is some Bluetooth capability built in, and a little bit of finessing you can do with the sound with bass and treble. But you're not going to get all kinds of layered menus like you do in a lot of digital equipment. And I don't know, to me, when I first saw the equipment, it reminded me somewhat of like AdCom gear from the 80s, you know, that just black box simplicity. A time I look fondly on when it comes to audio equipment. It's when I sold it, when I used to listen to it on Saturday afternoons in the showroom and all that. But there's some nice design touches from the, you know, the square buttons and just kind of the, I wouldn't say sharp edges, but just the clean aesthetics of the IOTAVX gear is going to appeal to many. And to my knowledge, this only comes in black, but check with IOTAVX. They're very easy to get a hold of in Germany there. I love the aesthetic look. I love the heft and the heaviness of the gear. I love the power that it supplies, and there's all kinds of unique features. All right, now, you know, I never know who's watching my YouTube videos. It could be everybody from seasoned pros that give me a hard time about the words I choose, and it could be beginners that maybe have never bridged amplifiers before. And to be honest with you, I haven't until I had the IOTAVX loaned to me. Now, many of you may be used to systems where you have a preamp or an amplifier with preamp capabilities that you can connect to more power, but you're not taking the power from one unit and combining it with the power of another unit to kind of double your fun. That's what you do when you bridge these components together. And there's very specific instructions included with the IOTAVX system to make sure you're making the right speaker connections, because it's a lot different than just preamp to amplifier. You're taking the 300 watts from the SA40, you're combining it with the 300 watts of the PA40, sending it out to different channels respectively to create all that extra wattage. Now, as we take a closer look to the amp, I'll be flashing specifications and numbers and facts at you in the interest of time. I know we've already taken a lot and I'll already be criticized because I always am. But one of the first features I want to talk about is the built-in Phono preamp for moving magnet and moving coil cartridges. This is one of the stars of the show here, because to my ears, and frankly, they're the only ears I have, it sounded really good to me, and I have to kind of not laugh, but maybe guffaw a little bit at folks that write to me and say, hey, should I use this $100 Phono preamp instead of the built-in Phono preamp in this $1,000 amplifier or whatever? And I'm like, you know what? I think at some point you're kind of splitting hairs. I think in this case, unless you're spending $500, $600, $1,000 on some kind of Phono preamp, just go with what's inside of here. It's well designed, well made, and it sounds really good. Save yourself some money. Put that money towards some bigger speakers or some better cables or something like that. You're not going to notice a huge amount of difference at this level of equipment. That's my opinion anyway. Save the cash. Now, another feature that's going to appeal to many of you is the presence of balanced connections. I personally am not a huge balanced connection guy. I don't know if I hear a difference. I use RCA primarily because I always have, and that doesn't mean you have to. So enjoy the balanced features, if you will. There's also a very nice headphone amp built in. Again, the headphone amplifier drawing on the really great power specifications that this IOTA gear has. You can Bluetooth stream to the 40. There's a very simple menu on a very simple digital display where you can adjust your bass and treble. I ran it flat and I loved it that way, but you have a little bit of flexibility in the sound. You can see you have ample inputs. Now, I'm not going to do the shopping list of all the connections that you can make. You can see them here clearly, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed in the amount of connections. And as you continue to look at the connections here, we'll talk a little bit about the sound as I interpret it. The sound produced by this IOTA system is everything that you would expect from a powerful AB amplification system. The thing I kept coming back to as I was listening, beyond the fact that it kicks you right in the chest with sound, with or without a subwoofer. Of course, I used my Klipsch Forte 4s. You know I love those. And I even took my KEF LS50 Metas out of mothballs. But in general, the sound is super punchy, super AB. And I know there are different kinds of AB amps and different classes and different sound profiles. I kept coming back to that, this means anything to anybody, that kind of Marantz sound. That Marantz rock and roll sound that I've loved all these years. That's kind of what I was getting. Kind of almost a cross between a vintage Marantz sound and the Marantz sound that you get today. On the warm side, on the punchy side, detailed, yes, but not to excess. Solid, punchy, syrupy, buttery. Now I feel like I'm talking about breakfast, but I don't know. I don't know how else to communicate to you the sound other than, you know, using some brands like Marantz. It has just that kind of Marantz rock and roll punchy sound, to some degree that Macintosh sound, though not Tubi by any stretch of the imagination. And what impressed me is when I took my LS50s, which in the 4 years I've had them or so have not really become my friend, they really came to life with the IOTAVX. I mean, they did. With a combination of my Rel Classic 98 subwoofer, they really came into their own. And I wrote to Berthold over at IOTAVX in Germany, and I said, hey,
What's up?
These LS50 Metas sound good for the first time I've ever owned them. And I was just kind of taking a shot in the dark. I go, it must be the current. It must be the amount of current that these amplifiers are pumping out. And you know what? He confirmed my theory. He returned my email. He says, Bob, you are absolutely right. We're running a lot of current, and that's what's producing that punchy sound. And making speakers that sound at one time marginal better than they ever have. There was nothing wrong with those KEF speakers. They just weren't being fed right. I wasn't giving them enough power. But now, at 300 watts a channel into 8, I can say I'm giving them enough power. I can't imagine having more amplification in my home. It's unfathomable. It's unrealistic to think that I'll ever have a system with more power than this. It looks good. It sounds great. It's everything you basically need to make really good rock and roll, really good jazz club, really good pop, everything really. Sound. It really can do it all, but it's going to pay off dividends if you like Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Bruce Springsteen, Elvis Costello, David Bowie, Joe Strummer and the Clash. It's going to pay off dividends in those kind of acts, because to me it just has such a rock and roll vibe in its sound signature. I think you're gonna love it. Again, I'm just showing it to you. I'm giving you my impressions. I'm not one of those detailed guys with charts and graphs. So that's my overview. That's my take, my personal opinion on living with this gear for about, 4 or 5 months now. It's got to go back. It's going to someone else who you might know. So you'll see other reviews on this. Take what I've said, combine it with other reviews and other things that you read, and make your best decision. But if you're looking for a powerful rock and roll bridged amp kind of combo system, this is it. IOTAVX, UK company, moved to Germany, doing great things, putting all the pieces together like we do here in the United States of Analog. And speaking of that, thanks so much for being here. If you've got a couple extra minutes and you want to watch more of me, which my wife would never understand, watch this video right here. It may be of great interest to you. The geniuses at YouTube have already picked it especially for you. With that, I will leave you until next time. Peace!